This is a sea lamprey. Sea lampreys are parasitic eel-like blood-sucking fish. Here's how they feed. First, look at this lamprey's mouth. Notice how it's an open circle? This acts like a large suction cup that allows the lamprey to suction onto the skin of an unsuspecting fish. Inside the mouth, we can see a ring of sharp teeth. Once the lamprey suctions onto its host, it sinks these teeth into their skin to fasten itself in place. Now take a close look at the center of the mouth. Do you see that thing in the middle? It's the lamprey's tongue. Notice how it's covered in a bunch of hard, bony plates. These have a bunch of points on them. They're scrapers. Once the lamprey fastens onto its victim, it extends this tongue and begins to scrape, boring into the flesh of its prey and feeding on their blood. This is a rattle from a rattlesnake. I've always wondered how rattlesnake rattles make sound. Well, if you look inside, you'll see it's pretty hollow. This is very surprising. I thought rattlesnake rattles worked like maracas, and they had little bits inside that knocked around to make sound. But they're hollow, so that can't be the case. But look here, if I pull on the rattle, a piece comes off. It seems like the rattle can come apart in different sections. Here's an image that can help us see how the sections fit together. One section is highlighted in white. See how all of the segments fit loosely inside each other? Now look at this. Notice how the segments aren't firmly connected. They have space to wiggle around and move. So when the rattle is shaken, those segments knock into each other. And that's how a rattlesnake rattle rattles.
This is a Sicilian. Take a close look at its face. See those teeth? It's pretty much a giant worm with a huge set of fangs. In one species of Sicilian, a mother will give birth to a bunch of babies. Those babies will immediately start eating their mother's flesh for nutrients. So a Sicilian is kind of like a giant fanged worm that gives birth to cannibalistic worm babies.
This is a stingray. I've always wondered how a stingray stings. Well, if you look at the bottom, you'll see a long tail. I thought this was a stinger, but I was wrong. Because look here, if I move the tail to the side, see that small barb? This is the stinger. Here's what it looks like removed from the stingray. Look closely at the edge. It's sharp and serrated and can easily cut into flesh. And here's the important part. See those two grooves in the middle of the stinger? Those grooves hold special cells that secrete venom into the flesh of the stingray's victims. And that's how a stingray stings.
This is a dyed turtle specimen. It holds a secret. I've always wondered how turtle shells form. I thought they were formed from the turtle's hard outer skin, like a fingernail. But I was wrong. See those red lines on the turtle's back? Those are ribs. Here's a soft shell turtle shell. Notice how the ribs have flattened out and fused together. This Blanding's turtle shell shows a more extreme example. Check out how the ribs come out of the spine. They've completely expanded and they fuse together along these lines. So a turtle shell isn't skin at all. It's a turtle's ribs that have expanded and fused together.